RNN Solar Day 2017 is brought to you by the following: Rhode Island College, Cardi's Furniture and Mattresses, WB Mason Office Supplies, the 10th Annual Boston Green Fest, Clean Energy Development, Carolyn Sakonnet Vineyard, and the Arpin Group.
I'm Peter Arpin with the RNN team, and we are back in beautiful green Newport, Rhode Island. Today we are celebrating RNN's 2017 Solar Day, but more importantly, we are taking you from gilded to green, from the old to the new. And to help me do that is my co-host today. He is the Rhode Island chairman of the Green Building Council, Ken Filarski. Ken, welcome back.
Good to see you, Peter.
On the way over, I got thinking a lot about that trip from mainland Rhode Island to the island here in Newport, and what it would be like a century ago. What would be powering us? What would be sustainable? Just thinking about some of the contrast.
Well, the trip over here today was wonderful in itself, but going back to the time that you're evoking, obviously the times are slower. So I think that what hits me is everything. It took time to put things together. People took time in their craftsmanship, time to think. We're bombarded with a lot of things. So it's good to be back here and seeing a place that is timeless.
And that's a great segue as we think about our backdrop at Belcourt of Newport. Very busy day, lots going on. Give us an overview, a taste of some of the guests and the conversations.
Well, the guests, I guess the headliner of the guest is the owner of Belcourt Castle, Carol Rafalian, who is the founder, CEO, and visionary of Alex and Ani. We also have Shahin Barzin, the architect for this wonderful project, a world-renowned architect. We have Carol Grant, who's the commissioner of the Rhode Island Office of Energy Resources, and Mayor Harry Winthrop of Newport, Rhode Island.
One of the things, Ken, is as I think about the day and as we finish up with a flourish, the awards, I love recognizing, and you touched on it, passion, innovation, leaders, people that are committed with their heart and soul to some of these projects.
That's precisely right. And one of the nice things about this project is there's sustainability. There's sustainability in terms of renewable energy, the photovoltaic system, the geothermal system, the energy efficiency. But as we talked about a couple weeks ago when we were here, there's also the sustainability of the culture, of the embodied energy of the building. And that's one of the fascinating, rewarding things that I came out of this with, because the embodied energy is not only the artifacts and the fine art that's in there, but what they're saving is the embodied energy of the materials and the resources that were used to make those materials and put them into this building.
And what could become more pleasurable than taking our global audience and taking them through this amazing host, this Belcourt of Newport, and talking about, as we celebrate the 2017 RNN Day, the Solar Day, what could be greater than thinking about the Gilded to Green, our journey from where we've gone to where we are to where we are going. Stay tuned. We'll be right back here at Belcourt of Newport. Inside Belcourt of Newport, and thank you to the live studio audience. Also with, and I want to just tweak your introduction, Ken. You are the chairman, U.S. Green Building Council here in Rhode Island. You are also a celebrated architect. Thanks so much for being with us today. Ken, as I think about that opening, you had talked about embodied energy. And it really got me thinking a little bit about Alex and Ani and some of their mystique. Some of what they breathe into what is really an inanimate object, right? And as I think about what we're doing today in this beautiful facility, as you think about renovation and remodeling and rebirth, it's kind of like breathing some of that spirit into this building.
I couldn't agree more, Peter. There's obviously the tagline branding of Alex and Ani is positive energy. And embodied energy, I think, brings positive energy because you're using resources of the past. There's also something else that's, which I think is missing in design and construction and in general life, is joy. And the embodied energy and positive energy brings joy to things. When you bring people, things that are well done, such as this building, the restoration of this building, being joyful is so important.
And one of the things I want to frame this conversation so we can go from the micro to the macro. We can look at the details, the grunt work. Certainly there's been a lot of that. And then we look at the larger part of this, financing and permitting and working with government and where this leads to with other buildings. And one of the things I also want to ask as we kind of launch this 2-hour broadcast is I want you to be thinking about your celebration with us and then without us later on Solar Day. And how will you celebrate, but more importantly, how will you integrate it into your day-to-day life? Perhaps we can maybe add some ideas and answer some of those questions. We will start with what is a great team here at Belcourt. And it is good to see Shahin Barzin. You are the lead architect here at Belcourt, and it is good to see you again. Thank you so much for bringing us in.
Likewise.
And you guys goofed everything up. I had the order different. Bill Cozier is the mill shop manager, and I understand you are incredibly skilled at what you do.
Well, that's what Shahin keeps telling me.
He sure does. Sam Hardy, good to see you again, project manager. Let's start, because the backstory is so fabulous here, and we know there's been other renovations. This has been a different facility at times. Start with the history and why this became really a great place to do what you're doing.
I mean, just talking briefly about the history of the building, it was commissioned by Oliver Belmont, and the architect was Morris Hunt, who was an iconic figure in the world of architecture in the late 1800s. And the owner, Oliver Belmont, was admirer of horses, and he had a nice collection, and he wanted to have a place for his horses. So he basically asked Hunt to design this mansion, which was styled after Louis XIII cottage in Versailles, to build this to house his horses. So it ended up to be over 40,000 square feet of space with 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. And the rest was mostly for the horses and the animals.
Who did not need separate bathrooms.
They did not need separate. They shared.
Today they might get their own, right?
Yeah, you never know. Yeah. But a few years after the completion of this mansion, he marries Alva, who was the ex-wife of Vanderbilt. And once she moves in, she decides to change and make some modifications into the building, make it more human friendly than necessarily just horse friendly. So she did some major renovations. This room that we're sitting in right now was the carriage house originally. And once Alva came into the picture, she wanted to turn this into a ballroom. In fact, she had plans for it to turn into a full Renaissance style ballroom, but that project never happened.
So a little more expensive taste.
Maybe so, yeah, it may be so. But she did extensive renovation in the staircase area, and she put a new library in place, and she definitely left her mark on the building. So when we took over this project, the main concept was to bring it back to Hunt's original intentions, but at the same time respect Alva's renovations as well, because they were major and they were part of the history of the building.
Talk about the approach today, the passion, the mission, the goals, and again, when you think about the incredible asset that was sitting here waiting for you, how there were elements of sustainability built into it back then, right? That certainly gave you a foundation for this passion and goal that you brought to the table, and that Carolyn did as well.
I mean, Carolyn purchased this property back in the fall of 2012. And that's when she asked me to join and be the project architect. And I mean, from the very beginning of the project, it was apparent that this is a very, very special building. Just given the history of it, who the architect was, and also the characters that were involved in the building. But at the same time, she does have a great interest in sustainability and the use of green energy. And other projects that have worked with her before, we definitely implemented those.
Shahin,
Can you jump in?
quick question
Yes.
for you, maybe a long answer.
Sure.
When you started thinking about sustainability, you and Carolyn, did you start thinking about it piecemeal, like, oh, let's do solar, let's do, or were you thinking in a more holistic fashion?
No, I mean, the project was, pretty monumental. So at the beginning, we had to analyze the whole project and try to understand what we're facing with, really. And then to answer your question, we try to look at it more in a global sense, how we can use the systems in this 100-year-old building and make it function properly.
That's interesting, because when we talked before, I didn't learn that, and maybe in the future discussion with your partners here, what are those systems, and how do those systems grow or give the springboard to what you're trying to do now, both in terms of the building and also energy efficiency, renewables?
Right. I mean, I think you have to look at it in two different ways. Okay, one is the actual use of the system. So we have a solar system, panels, photovoltaic installed on the roof. We have a geothermal system here. And just the way we approach the building in general, how we want to restore everything, preserve everything, not necessarily replace it. So that to me is part of the whole concept of sustainability. And also one important aspect that I think Carolyn wants to emphasize on, and it goes with the whole project, is the educational aspect of it. I mean, ultimately, this building is going to become a center of education, a museum. But the building itself, as it's being restored, is also a process of education. And introducing geothermals and solar system into the building, that, because of the exposure the building has, this is a narrative that could go to the public and make people more aware of the green use of
Which is what we're doing today. Mm-hmm. Bill, how did you first approach this? And talk us through working with this, again, this type of asset, the craftsmanship, the challenges.
Sure. Well, I first approached Sam, and I said, Sam, I need a job. And he said, okay, I got a job for you.
And he looks like a good guy. He looks like, Sam, I need a job too.
And so Sam said, well, we have a big project here. And I had not yet met Shahin, and I think that a day later I met Shahin and realized that it was a group of people who were all heading in the same direction. And that, having a job and just doing your job is one thing, but when you get to work with other people in a like-minded fashion, all working towards the same end, changes the whole game from a working standpoint. And so Sam has given me the freedom to basically say, Billy, we have to fix all the doors on the second floor. And then Shahin will talk to me about making sure we don't replace them, that we're trying to fix them, trying to save as much of the original material in the building as we possibly can. If it's too rotten, we'll replace it, but if it's fixable, then we'll fix it. And that creates a challenge sometime, to take a door that's completely falling apart and the glass is falling out, to bring it back to its original strength of 120 years ago is a bit of a challenge.
And aren't you storing a number of the materials and artifacts in this building, not only on site but elsewhere, to be incorporated later?
Yes, there's a whole facility up in Wickford where we've taken a lot of the contents out of the building just so that it doesn't get dusty and filthy and that type of thing. But when I first started here 2 years ago, the place looked very different.
Oh, yeah.
It was a mess.
We saw it. And so, and during the tour, we saw some of what Bill was just talking about. Sam, get into some of the challenges and
I think
how
Billy,
you work through them.
Sure, Billy just touched on it. You look at a set of doors and they're rotten. You can see that in the assembly of the door, but the main challenge is when you start uncovering an actual project, understanding what's below it and what you find there.
So
and that
stripping
affects,
the layers.
You strip back the layers, peel back the onion. That affects your schedule, your budget, overall, putting the right people in the right place to take on that project. This isn't our only project. So there's challenges everywhere you look, but specifically knowing the building, getting involved with a specific project, doing as we like to call detective work, tends to be a recurring challenge we deal with.
One of the impressive things is not only the talent of the team, but the size. Tell us about the number of jobs, the people working here, because obviously that's good for a place like Rhode Island and certainly a place like Newport.
Right. I mean, that didn't happen overnight. So the challenge is finding the right people. We've had a lot of great people come in the door that just didn't fit. So we've created a lot of jobs with this property. We have a team of about 25 in-house employees, and we've offered about 400 jobs in the last year to work specifically on Belcourt.
You also have in my perception, you have a unique structure about how the project is organized and managed. Usually a project this size, you design it, bid it out, and go through that whole process, but
yeah.
Yours is unique.
Well, absolutely, and you're right. And we almost started that way, as Shahin could speak about. And we went through various other contractors coming through here, and it wasn't the right fit. So what we decided to do was start to hire in-house people that were handpicked, that were passionate about the project, and could deliver the quality of work we were looking for. So.
And avoid change orders and all that. Basically, you avoid the negative energy and you get positive energy out of it.
Yeah,
we're going to pause just for a second, though. When we get back, we need to talk about renewables, and that's part of the job creation, but also the integration of the old and the new. And so give us a minute, and we will welcome Stuart Flanagan from Newport Renewables to RNN.
Belcourt of Newport originally was intended as a summer cottage for Oliver Belmont and his many horses.